Gossip Girl made her famous, but Taylor Momsen was more interested in being on stage than behind the camera. And while she may be away from Hollywood now, the star has managed to bring a little piece of Jenny Humphrey with her. Taylor Momsen entered the entertainment industry at a very young age, well, before she was old enough to make a decision about it for herself.
This is how you make shake and bake. What? Shake it all crazy.
Throughout her career, Momsen has expressed mixed feelings about her upbringing. She said becoming an actor was her choice and that her parents simply helped her find opportunities. But later comments reveal a very different picture. In an interview with Revolver, Momsen explained, "My parents signed me up with Ford Modeling at the age of 2. No 2-year-old wants to be working, but I had no choice. My whole life I was in and out of school. I didn't have friends, I was working constantly, and I didn't have a real life." But after finishing high school early and moving to New York to film Gossip Girl, Momsen became legally responsible for herself and enjoyed more freedom and independence. Momsen got her big break when she landed the role of Jenny Humphrey on Gossip Girl, but some of her co-stars weren't impressed. In later seasons, Momsen appeared on screen less and less, and Tim Gunn hinted as to why after guest starring on the show as Jenny's mentor. In an interview with E! News, Gunn didn't hold back, saying, "What a diva. She was pathetic. She couldn't remember her lines, and she didn't even have that many. I thought to myself, why are we being held hostage by this brat?"
I never actually watched the show, and maybe fans are going to yell at me about this, but I'm pretty sure they had me dealing drugs at one point.
After working on the series for a few years, Momsen seemed frustrated with acting and was ready to move on. Although Taylor Momsen was a successful actor, she secretly dreamed of making music. She'd been writing her own songs since she was a child and wanted to start her own band. Then she had a light bulb moment. She didn't have to act anymore if she didn't want to. She told Cosmopolitan, "It was like, if I don't have to do this thing that I don't enjoy doing anymore, or I don't know if I ever really did, then I'm not gonna do it anymore. Because this is my life and I want to live it and enjoy it if I can."
Goodbye, good riddance, and good luck.
Dealing with the logistics of retiring from acting was complicated, especially because she made the decision while still appearing on Gossip Girl, but she knew she made the right choice. In her early years with her band, The Pretty Reckless, Momsen faced some obstacles. As a young woman in a male-dominated genre, she wasn't always taken seriously. She was branded as a wild child for her onstage antics, and there were doubts about her authenticity as an artist. Later, she realized that some of this criticism was aimed at her simply for being a teenage girl. Speaking with Louder, she said, "There is a boys' club when it comes to rock and roll, and it is a struggle to break into that and be accepted and treated with the same respect as if you were a man." Today, she's more comfortable and confident in her own skin, and she credits other female artists like Amy Lee of Evanescence for helping her navigate the industry. Opening for Soundgarden in 2017 was one of the highlights of Momsen's career. She never imagined that she'd play the same concert as Chris Cornell, Soundgarden's lead vocalist and one of her musical heroes. But tragedy struck when Momsen learned Cornell had died by suicide. Speaking with Spin, she recalled, "I was there that last night in Detroit. I talked to him at night. I gave him a hug and said goodbye. When I wake up to that news the next morning, it just went from the most elating experience to one of the most devastating." After a few more performances, Momsen decided to put her own band's tour on hold. She explained, "I couldn't get on stage every night and put on this big rock show like everything was okay." She canceled all the Pretty Reckless's upcoming shows because she knew she couldn't give the fans what they'd come for. Months after Chris Cornell's death, Momsen and her bandmates were finally ready to start recording again. But shortly after they decided to begin working on a new album, Momsen learned that their producer and her close friend, Kato Kandwala, had been killed in a motorcycle accident. She was devastated.
We have one hard and fast rule, which is that if we are not all entertained, it is not good enough.
Momsen told Metro, "It was the nail in the coffin for me, for lack of a better term. He was so much more than a producer, he was a fifth member of the band and my best friend in the world." With Kandwala gone, Momsen had no idea how to move forward, and she felt like there was no point in trying anymore. After losing 2 people who meant so much to her, Momsen tried to numb her pain. She explained to the Daily Beast, "I wouldn't say rock bottom, but I was getting close to that. I was in this hole of depression, substance abuse, and was not well mentally." Momsen didn't want to engage with the outside world and spent most of her time at home. Rather than turning to others for help, she isolated herself. And in the midst of her grief, she found that even listening to music made her feel worse, telling Illinois Entertainer, "If I put on any music which has always brought me such solace and hope and light, it would bring back some sort of memory which was too much for me to handle or too painful, so I didn't have my outlet which had always been there for me." Momsen couldn't bear the thought of listening to her favorite artists, let alone write new songs. Eventually, she began to pull herself out of her depression by returning to her favorite band, the Beatles.
Heard the Beatles, heard Strawberry Fields. It was over.
Then she revisited albums from her other inspirations, including bands like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and The Who. When she was finally able to listen to Soundgarden again, she knew it was time to pick up her guitar. There was a time when Taylor Momsen would reliably pop up in the tabloids and gossip magazines, but today she has no real interest in chasing fame for fame's sake. While she loves her music career, she doesn't want her personal life in the spotlight. In a People interview, she said, "Fame is a fleeting thing, just something that you have to deal with. It's not real." She may not get as much media attention now that her days on Gossip Girl are behind her, but today Momsen is happier with her career, so the trade-off seems to have been worth it. The Pretty Reckless released their fourth album, Death by Rock and Roll, on February 12, 2021. It was a tribute to their producer, Kato Kandwala, whose sudden death almost broke up the band when Momsen retreated into isolation.
Well, I hate working with you, Kato, so I don't know what you're talking about.
It's clear and obvious.
Talking about the album with the Daily Beast, she revealed, "We finished the album right before COVID, and due to the insane world circumstances, we pushed it a little bit. The pandemic and the deaths of 3 loved ones combined to inspire Death by Rock and Roll. As Momsen explained to In Love magazine, we poured all of our heart and soul into saying goodbye, and at the same time, used it to move on. It was a major turning point in our lives." Although Momsen felt that making and promoting their first album without Kandwala was a cathartic and healing experience, not being able to perform it live was frustrating. She admitted to Elle, "I was doing lots of Zoom interviews and everything, which is all good and fine, but doing that side of a record release and not getting to play feels very incomplete." Since the Pretty Reckless couldn't tour when Death by Rock and Roll came out, the band spent the pandemic rehearsing and playing together for fun. This re-established their bond, and the practice made them more flexible and polished as musicians for when they were able to return to the stage. And Momsen happens to love touring, telling Elle, "It's breathing life into the band and myself, and I feel like we're in a very positive place, which is nice to be able to say as we started in a very negative one."
You feed off an audience, and when they are psyched, you're psyched.
Momsen credits their extensive backlist with keeping their performances fresh and exciting. As she explained to Untitled magazine, "We're not playing the same set every night. There are certain songs that stay in every night because we love them, but we can switch the set list out at a moment's notice with old material and different things from different records, depending on the audience or where we are." The Pretty Reckless released a new album, Other Worlds, on November 4th, 2022. Articulating the musical influences that have shaped the band's sound, the record contained cover tunes along with acoustic versions of their original songs. Speaking with Elle, Momsen clarified, "This is the other side of us. It's a bit more intimate and stripped back, but still very Pretty Reckless." Recording a cover of Soundgarden's Halfway There with drummer Matt Cameron as a tribute to late Soundgarden singer Chris Cornell catalyzed the album's concept for Momsen, but the record was created out of the boredom of the pandemic. As Momsen explained, "I started making music at home and recording acoustic versions of our songs, working with some of my friends who are also artists and doing remote collaborations. By the end of lockdown, I looked at all the stuff I made and went, this is all really good. I'm really proud of all of this stuff." Other Worlds is a tribute to Momsen's love of demos and the songwriting process. The Pretty Reckless gives fans a taste of this process on the album. Momsen said, "You can hear the song in its infancy without all the pop production. That's always been intriguing to me as an artist and a fan, so getting to share that side of ourselves with our fans was an interesting idea for me." Momsen may have left Gossip Girl to focus on her music career and live a more private life, but that doesn't mean she didn't take a little piece of Jenny Humphrey with her. Just like her alter ego, who became a designer for Blair Waldorf's family business in the last episode of the series, Momsen loves fashion. She elaborated to In Love magazine, saying, "Whether writing songs or creating a look, it's all about being creative and using that to express how I feel at any given time. Fashion is the outside appearance of my inner feeling, or I can use it to change my mood. It's fun for the imagination." Momsen occasionally attends fashion shows to support her favorite designers. During New York's Fall Fashion Week 2023, Momsen sat front row to support Frederick Anderson's Renaissance-inspired line, which she described to Life Minute TV.
Very glamorous, very gothy, which is very my vibe. I'm rocking the blonde Wednesday Addams situation.
Although there's no date set, Momsen revealed during a radio interview that the Pretty Reckless are laying the groundwork for their next studio album. In an interview with Ronnie Hunter of Columbus, Ohio's 99.7 The Blitz, Momsen said, "We're in a great headspace, we're just having fun with it." But although work has begun on the next Pretty Reckless LP, the band doesn't yet have a concept for the record. Momsen explained their process to In Love, saying, "It's always interesting to see where the muses will take you. You never know the destination till you're there." If you or anyone you know is struggling or in crisis or needs help with addiction issues, contact the relevant resources below. Call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. Visit the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration website or contact SAMHSA's National Helpline at 1-800-662-HELP 4357.